The anchor chain screams as it grinds against the hawse pipe. Then silence. Just the heavy, rhythmic slap of salt water against steel hulls. Look out across the Persian Gulf right now. 5:27 a.m., day 30. 150 massive freighters sit dead in the water. Oil tankers, LNG carriers, container ships, behemoths of global trade, drifting, the air thick with the smell of unburned diesel and stagnant brine. They are waiting, they aren't moving. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, not delayed, not restricted, shut down. March 4th, 2026. The IRGC drew a line in the water following the U.S.-Israeli strikes. Just like that, 20% of the world's oil supply vanished. 20% of its liquefied natural gas, gone. The United States parked the most lethal naval armada in human history right outside the gate. Guided missile destroyers, carrier strike groups, billions of dollars of gray steel cutting through the waves. And they are failing to pry the door open. Why? Because you can't solve a dirt problem from the water. The answer isn't more Tomahawk missiles. It isn't more F-35 sorties. The answer is boots on jagged rock. Marines, thousands of them, currently packed into the sweating bellies of amphibious assault ships, steaming toward the choke point. Look at a map. Pinpoint the Strait of Hormuz, Iran to the north, Oman and the UAE to the south, rock, sand, blistering heat. At its throat, it's 21 miles wide, 34 kilometers. You can drive that distance on a highway in half an hour. But the water that matters? The deep, navigable shipping lanes? Just 2 lanes, 2 miles wide each, a 2-mile buffer in between. That's it, a 6-mile corridor of dark water. Through that gap, 20 million barrels of crude oil squeeze through every single day before March 4th, a $500 billion artery. Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain. Trace their coastlines with your finger. No alternative routes, no back doors. The strait slams shut, they become landlocked. Pipelines exist, dust-choked steel tubes cutting across the desert. They pump maybe 5.5 million barrels a day at maximum pressure. The daily shortfall now? Over 14 million. Math doesn't care about geopolitical posturing. When Iran threw the deadbolt, the shockwave didn't take months. It took hours. Traders in London and New York hammered keyboards. Oil surged 13% in 72 hours. Crude smashed through $100 a barrel, peaked at $114. The International Energy Agency printed a memo calling it the greatest global energy security challenge in history. Suits in Frankfurt rubbed their eyes. The ECB halted rate cuts. In Europe, gas storage sat at 30% after a hard winter. Dutch TTF prices doubled. Steel plants in the UK slammed their doors shut. Surcharges hit 30%. In Bangladesh, campus gates locked early. Pakistan ordered 4-day work weeks. Streetlights flickered out. This is what a choke strait looks and smells like. Cold furnaces, idle engines, the sharp tang of stale coffee and sweat on trading floors. Everyone looks at the U.S. Navy. They expect a phalanx of destroyers to just blast a path, flank the tankers, and steam on through. Escort duty, done. They are wrong, dead wrong. Step onto the bridge of an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer in the Gulf. Look at the radar screens. Green sweeps cutting through the dark. What if you just order the fleet to escort the tankers through? Force the passage. It sounds simple on paper in Washington. Out here, the water is shallow. Iran doesn't fight ship to ship. They don't play our game. They build a layered kill chain designed explicitly to swallow billion-dollar warships. Layer 1, the swarm. Fast attack craft. Cheap fiberglass hulls. Stripped down, heavily armed. They hide in the jagged coves along the coastline. Engines idling, stinking of raw gasoline. They don't come one by one. They come in dozens. Coordinated strikes. Try tracking 50 speedboats moving at 60 knots while your ship is confined to a 2-mile wide channel. Your failing CIWS guns spin up. The deck vibrates. You engage 10. What about the other 40? Layer 2, the mines. The Defense Intelligence Agency counts over 5,000 of them in the Iranian arsenal. Moored mines, bottom influence mines, acoustic, magnetic. You drop them off the back of a fast boat in the dead of night. They sink, they arm, they wait. Once a channel is seeded, speed becomes your enemy. You have to send in the minesweepers. Fiberglass and wood-hulled ships creeping at 5 knots. towing acoustic generators, dragging cables. But you can't sweep a minefield when someone is shooting at you. Which brings us to Layer 3, the high ground. Look at the islands, Larak, Sheshem, Abu Musa. They sit right inside the strait. They are not beaches, they are fortresses. The IRGC spent a decade hollowing out the rock. They shoved radar arrays, anti-ship missile batteries, and drone-launched catapults into the caves. On March 17th, CENTCOM sent bombers. They dropped GBU-72 penetrators, 5,000-pound smart bombs. The shock waves ripped across the water. Concrete cracked. Mountainsides collapsed into dust. And then, by March 5th, Iranian state TV boasted 500 ballistic and naval missiles fired, 2,000 drones launched. The dust settled, and radar painted new launch signatures emerging from the rubble. Air power breaks things. It doesn't keep them broken. F-35s fly back to the carrier. The target site goes quiet. 30 minutes later, an IRGC crew crawls out of a secondary tunnel, sets up a mobile launcher, and locks onto a minesweeper. Air power cannot hold terrain. You need to step on the rock. You need a rifleman looking down the sights to guarantee that cliff is clear. March 11th, Okinawa. The heavy mooring lines of the USS Tripoli slip into the water. 43,000 tons of gray steel pushing out to sea. No well deck, just a flat top built for aviation. Below deck, the air smells of JP-5 jet fuel, grease, and sweat. On board the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit, 2,200 Marines racking bolts, checking gear. They are the only continuously forward-deployed MEU in the arsenal. Behind them, the USS Boxer pulls out of California with the 11th MEU. Another 2,500 Marines. The USS New Orleans, the USS Rushmore. Nearly 5,000 Marines converging on a 21-mile gap. A Marine Air Ground Task Force isn't just infantry. It's a self-sustaining organism. Command, ground, aviation, logistics. They don't ask permission to use a local port. They bring the port with them. They are sailing into the Gulf right now to execute 4 simultaneous missions. Mission 1, the coastal assault, taking the islands. F-35Bs clear the airspace. CH-53, E Super Stallions and MV-22 Ospreys drop from the sky. Rotors chopping the heavy, humid air. Marines fast rope into the dust. They clear the caves. They spike the missile tubes. They hold the Gemini Genoa Mission 3, the takedown. VBSS, visit, board, search, and seizure. Ospreys flare over suspect freighters in the dead of night. The rotor wash kicks up blinding, stinging saltwater spray. Marines fast rope onto slick steel decks. Boots hit the metal, weapons up. They kick doors. They clear cabins. They hunt for naval mines hidden beneath canvas tarps before those ships can drop their payloads into the shipping lanes. Mission 4, the throat grab, Karg Island. 90% of Iran's oil export flows through the pipes on that specific piece of rock. A Marine battalion landing team, 550 trigger pullers, doesn't just bomb the terminal. They take it. They hold it. You want to choke our economy? We choke yours. You cannot bargain with a crater left by an F-35, but you can bargain with 1,000 Marines sitting on the enemy's cash register. March 19th, the sky over the Gulf roars. CENTCOM jets hammer the coastline. 11,000 targets hit since February. The air smells of cordite and ozone. Over in Tel Aviv, Israel strikes. They eliminate the IRGC naval commander orchestrating the blockade. Does the strait open? No. Within 48 hours, a new commander steps up. The speedboats keep swarming. The gate stays locked. Washington slides a piece of paper across a table in Oman via Pakistani back channels. 15 points. Drop the nuclear program. Stop arming proxies. Open the water. Tehran pushes it right back. Denied. Look at the rest of the world. 22 nations sign a strongly worded piece of paper condemning the closure. But when Washington asks for warships, for troops, most of NATO takes a step back. They fold their arms. They watch. There is a brutal lesson here, echoing all the way back to Operation Praying Mantis in 1988.
Roger that.
We built the ultimate blue water navy. We built floating airports that can project power across hemispheres. But the global economy doesn't bleed out in the deep ocean. It bleeds out in the shallows. It bleeds in the choke points. We are relearning a cold, hard fact. Asymmetric warfare flips the script. It turns a $2 billion guided missile destroyer into a liability. It turns a $20,000 fiberglass speedboat into a strategic weapon. The broader implication for the rest of the 21st century is staring us right in the face. The era of uncontested, easy maritime dominance is over. You can control the sea. You can sink every ship that flies an enemy flag. But if you cannot control the jagged dirt bordering that sea, your ships are just expensive targets waiting for a cheap missile. Technology didn't replace the infantryman. It just made his job more dangerous. So here we are, March 30th, 2026, right now as you watch this. The U.S. Navy owns the Persian Gulf. They can launch sorties. They can sink every floating target Iran puts in the water. They have total air superiority. But the Strait of Hormuz is still closed because you cannot open a door with an airstrip. You cannot sweep a minefield when the enemy holds the high ground. The IRGC strategy isn't built to fight the Navy on the water. It's built to bleed them from the dirt. That is why the Tripoli and the Boxer are out there right now, pushing through the heavy swells. Nearly 5,000 Marines, racking weapons, checking gear, preparing to hit the rocks. The Navy needs the ground. They need the infantry to secure the fifth of the world's energy supply. The question isn't whether those Marines can take the islands. The question isn't whether they can clear the strait. The question is, when the ramps drop and the shooting starts, what is the final cost?